Hi there, everybody. I thought that I would try again and make a YouTube video for Thanksgiving. That's not the American Thanksgiving, this is the Canadian Thanksgiving. That's for us in church. We're going to remember on the 12th of October, on the 18th Sunday after Pentecost. The readings are Jeremiah 29, verse 1 and 4 to 7. And the main focus is Luke 17, verses 11 to 19, the healing of the 10 lepers. And today I want to talk a little bit about gratitude that heals. There's a rhythm to our lives in Canada that the church wisely blesses each year at Thanksgiving. The gardens have been gathered in, the fields are quietening down, the orchards have given their fruit. In so many households, there is a table set with far more than we strictly need. We pause together to name our gratitude to God for all that sustains us. But gratitude is not only about food on the table, it's about how we live in the world, how we see ourselves and others, and how we return to God. And the gospel set for this Sunday about the 10 people healed of leprosy is in many ways a parable of thanksgiving. The evangelist we call Luke tells us that Jesus was traveling along the border between Galilee and Samaria. Borders are interesting places, neither fully one thing nor another, often avoided, often places where people who don't quite belong end up gathering. Certainly that's true for many borders around the world. That's exactly what happens here. 10 people with a skin disease, the biblical translators leprosy, stand at a distance and they call out for mercy. They are together, Jews and Samaritans alike. Illness has kind of erased the normal barriers of religion and ethnicity. They live on the edges, excluded from community, and yet they're bold enough to cry out to Jesus, "Master, have mercy on us." Jesus doesn't touch them. He doesn't even say, "You are healed." Instead, he tells them, I guess this is what was required under Mosaic law, he tells them to go and show themselves to the priests, as was required by the law of the day. And as they go, they are healed. I think it's a beautiful detail there. Healing happens on the way, not in the moment, not with a flash of light or thunder, but in the ordinary act of taking steps forward in trust. Of the 10, only one comes back, and he praises God with a loud voice, falls at Jesus' feet and thanks him. And the evangelist tells us this man is a Samaritan. He is the outsider of the outsiders. And Jesus notices this. He asks, "Were not 10 made clean? But the other 9, where are they?" Then he says to the Samaritan, "Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well." Some translations say, "Your faith has saved you." The Greek word, sezoken, from the verb sozo, carries the sense not only of physical healing, but of wholeness, of restoration, of salvation. What makes this man different? All 10 were healed, but only he receives this deeper blessing. It is gratitude that opens him up to something more than the return of his health. Gratitude deepens the healing into salvation. And here's the truth of our lives. Healing is not just about our bodies. Healing is about our hearts. Healing is about our relationships. Healing is about our sense of belonging. The 9 who went on may have received new skin, but the one who returned received something more. He received new life. This is why gratitude matters so deeply. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have received. Gratitude turns us outward, to God and to one another. Gratitude is not just good manners. It is, in fact, a spiritual practice that opens us to wholeness. This is what makes Thanksgiving more than a holiday. Anyone can enjoy a good meal. Anyone can feel happy about that meal. But Christian Thanksgiving is about returning to the source of all gifts, returning to the one who has healed and sustained us, returning with praise and thanksgiving. It is about recognizing that everything we have is a gift. Our homes, our families, our food, our health, even our very breath, all of it is given. To give thanks is to live in awareness of grace. And when we live in awareness of grace, we begin to see differently. We see that life is not about hoarding, but about sharing. We see that gratitude naturally leads to generosity. That is why Thanksgiving has always been tied to harvest festivals. The abundance of God's earth is not ours to cling to, but to share with the hungry, to share with the lonely, to share with the stranger. On a personal level, this gospel speaks to each of us. We may not suffer from a terrible skin disease that keeps us separated from other people, but we all know what it is to feel on the margins, to feel isolated, broken in some way. We all long for healing. And often healing comes as we go, step by step, trusting God even when the outcome is not yet visible. Those 10 lepers began walking before they saw any change. In the same way, many of us walk in faith before we feel anything different. Healing and renewal often unfold along the way. But the fullness of healing, that is, wholeness, peace, salvation, comes when we stop, when we turn back and we give thanks. Gratitude, you see, is the doorway into a deeper relationship with God, into a sense of being truly at home in God's love. We also cannot miss the wider dimensions here. The only one who returned was a Samaritan. It was the foreigner. It was the outsider who showed the way of gratitude. In our world, where divisions of race, culture, and class continue to wound us, this gospel reminds us that gratitude can come from unexpected places. Sometimes it comes from those we overlook. They are the ones who teach us most vividly how to give thanks. As Jeremiah in chapter 29 wrote to the exiles in Babylon, he says, "Seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you, for in its welfare you will find your welfare." Even in strange and difficult places, God's people are called to plant gardens, build homes, and seek peace. Gratitude is not about denying hardship, but about recognizing God's gifts even in exile, even on the margins. So how might we live this gospel in our lives today? I can do it in three levels. Personally, as individuals, each day we could name one thing for which we are grateful for. Even in seasons of grief or in anxiety, gratitude can heal our hearts and remind us of God's presence. And then as households around the Thanksgiving table. Now I know many of you who are watching this video don't celebrate Thanksgiving in the same way that we do here in North America, but around the Thanksgiving table, or any table, pause to return thanks not just for the food, but for the people gathered, for the memories shared, for the blessings of life itself. And then as community, gratitude leads us to share. The harvest is not complete until all are fed. Our thanksgiving is incomplete if our neighbor is hungry. When we live this way, we become like the Samaritan who returned, not only healed, but also made whole. So on this Thanksgiving, may we hear the call of Jesus not only to receive blessings, but to return in gratitude. May our Thanksgiving not be limited to a holiday, but become a way of life. And may we discover in gratitude the wholeness and salvation that Jesus still offers, healing for our bodies, peace for our spirits, and a place in the community of God's love. Amen. Thank you for taking the time to watch.